Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us for our first family education night of this year. We've done a few in the years past. We have added a new piece this year that we are live streaming, and it will also be recorded. So if you have friends that you feel could benefit from this, other parents in the community, please pass that along. My name is Ashley Robertson. I'm the Director of Social Emotional Learning and Student Equity.
Buenas tardes, voy a interpretar para Ashley. Bienvenidos a nuestra primera noche de educación familiar. Hemos hecho varias en los años pasados, pero es la primera en este año. Hemos ofrecido otra parte adicional, que es la parte de donde hacemos el en vivo, como para que la gente en la casa pueda verlo o lo podamos videograbar para pasarlo a las familias fuera de aquí. So ella es Ashley, ella es la directora del aprendizaje socioemocional y equidad.
We have partnered with the Kenneth Young Center, so we have Daryl Pass here who will be helping us, and Ashley Holtz and Marian Lopez. So they are going to be doing the presentation. We're going to be stepping away, but please ask questions, be engaged. They have some freebies in the back, and we also have some food if you're hungry throughout the presentation.
So nosotros asociamos con Kenneth Young Center. Tenemos a Daryl, Ashley y Miriam. Aquí van a dar la presentación. So vamos nosotros a hacernos a un lado y dejar que ellos hagan la presentación, pero si tienen preguntas no duden en dejarnos saber.
This session will be in English, and we have another session in Spanish back in the left corner over there.
Okay, so esta sesión es en inglés y en el salón de allá adentro es en español. Y se me olvidó decir que hay comida o cosas para agarrar de los servicios que ofrece Kenneth Young Center atrás. Okay, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You too. All right, so hi everybody, good evening. I guess we can go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Ashley. Pronouns are she, hers. This is Daryl. If you want a quick introduction.
My name is Daryl Pass, and I'm the Manager of Recovery Support Services at Kenneth Young. My pronouns are he, him, his.
Yes, so I work in the Community Collaborations Department, sort of work across departments with the Kenneth Young Center. So if you guys have any questions about programs and stuff afterwards, please feel free to come up and ask us any questions you guys have too. But yeah, also throughout the presentation, if you guys have questions, feel free, ask them while you have them. So we can go ahead and get started. But today our topic is digital technology and online safety. So we'll be talking about, technology usage amongst teens primarily, sort of the trends, what that looks like, what we can do to sort of make sure that we're practicing safe online behaviors, making sure that our teens, young adults in our lives, making sure that we're keeping track of our own usage and staying safe online. So yeah, we can.
The microphones around are just for the live stream, so
Okay.
you can talk loud. They don't come through the microphones in here.
Oh, okay.
And did you get the remote? I had a remote for you.
No.
It was up there on the desk there.
Yeah. Does anybody have problems hearing me? We're all good? Okay.
Sound goes forward, which makes no sense.
Okay.
So you can just the opposite of what you think. You can do.
All right. Yeah, so quick disclaimer. These do not reflect any official policies of the Illinois Department of Human Services. We are the Kenneth Young Center. We are a nonprofit who partners with these departments, but we are a separate entity. So anything that you see in this presentation, we have pulled statistics, pulled quotes from different departments, but this is our presentation from the Kenneth Young Center. So why are we here? What are we talking about? Well, first off, yeah, no problem. So yes, again, Kenneth Young Center. So these are just some of the services that we offer, but that's counseling for people of all ages. We have assessments, stabilization programs, linkage programs for adults and children in psychiatric crises, treatment services, support services, recovery services, as well as service coordination and in-home services for elderly populations, and also evidence-based prevention and intervention programming, which I work in, for teens and adults. So we come into these middle schools, high schools, and we offer substance use prevention services for that demographic.
And for recovery support services, I know my department, my team and I, we have wraparound recovery services for people who struggle with substance use disorder, current issues, and we have support groups, which we specifically deal with smart recovery. If you have no idea what that is, smart recovery is a science-based, peer-led program that deals with 4 pillars, which is behavior and thoughts, motivation, coping with urges, and living a balanced lifestyle. We also have started something in the schools that's branching out. We're already in D62, and we're trying to get over here in 59, what's called restorative smart, where if your kid or a student is caught vaping on school premises, as opposed to the consequences where you receive a ticket or the kid is suspended, they would come with me and my team for a 2-hour session, and it's called Healthy Life Living.
So, yes, so what are we talking about right now? Sort of, we'll touch on how COVID has impacted our use of technology, and we'll sort of go over things that we can do, things that we can take away from this to make this useful in our own lives. So, yes, did you know, brief introduction, about over 95% of teens are on the internet, and we know based on research that most teens are on the internet up to 9 hours a day. So whether that's like on their laptops, on their phones, in school, on their Chromebooks, or just at home, that's that many hours in a day looking at any of these different social media platforms. 77% of teens are on Facebook, 75% use Snapchat, that is higher now. Nearly 63% are on TikTok, 53% still use Instagram, 24% are on Tumblr, which is another platform. And then among Twitter users, between the ages of 12 and 17, 64% make their tweets public. So we will talk about what that means. And then 19% of users post things that maybe they regret. So they're posting these on public platforms that anybody, not just the people close to them, have access to. And that includes photos, videos, status updates. Everybody here, if you're on Facebook, know what that means. Tweets or just comments under other people's posts, pictures, that kind of thing. And we know only 18% of young adults claim that they are comfortable with what their friends post about them, what the people around them are posting about them, and about 32% say that the information about them online is what they would choose for the public to see. Or we see that 68% of them don't like what they see about themselves on the internet. So what are teens saying? So generally, experiences on the internet can be positive. We know that 81% say that they feel more connected to their friends when they're on these social media platforms. About 70% think it helps them interact with more diverse populations. They get to introduce themselves to people that maybe they wouldn't have direct access to just in their hometowns. 70% feel as if they have people who will support them on the internet. So, they have a good support system, friends, peers on the internet. But when it comes to the negatives, we know that a good portion of students feel, or just teens feel, overwhelmed by the drama, just sort of the conflict that can arrive from posting online about yourself and other people. About 43% feel pressure to post things online that sort of makes them look good. And then 37% feel pressure to post content that will get them likes and comments. So that's them curating, the issue there is sort of like their lives, their decision making around sort of what they think will look good on the internet, doing things that maybe they wouldn't normally do, being pressured into doing things that their friends are doing. Those are some of the negative side effects that we know about. So yes, we can go ahead. Social media usage. Currently, YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat are the most popular online platforms. And have we heard of TikTok? Yeah. So TikTok is also very much on the rise in terms of just how many people are using it on the regular. So this is from 2018. In 2020, this is still true, but TikTok is probably the 4th most used amongst like this general demographic that we're talking about. So you can go ahead. So this number in 2020, our screen time was about 82 minutes. That was averaging just Americans though. When we're talking about teens, that age group from 12 to 17, that time is closer to 7 hours or 9 hours between school time and out of school time. And according to the Lurie Children's Hospital in Chicago, 63% of parents saw an increase in social media use in their children since the pandemic started. I think, can we relate to that? Mm-hmm. We have a question?
I just want to clarify, they're just online 9 hours a day, are you saying, or you're saying they're on social media 9 hours a day?
So this is about screen time particularly, but we will get into that a little bit more. When we're talking about screen time, there's a passive usage where it's just sort of in the background. But then in terms of active usage, it's still several hours a day where they're on social media. So yeah, bouncing back and forth kind of between different platforms, but still on social media that much time in a day. So we'll talk through these different platforms: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, just to get the basics about those. Yeah, there's quite a lot happening. So TikTok. Seems like everybody here was pretty familiar with TikTok. We all know what's going on with that now, but yes, it is a short form content platform where you can post videos, sort of voicing over things, reacting to other videos. There's songs, different trends where you can dance. And we do know that there's sometimes questionable content on TikTok because it's not monitored really by any particular source. So we know that there can be certain trends that are harmful, people partaking in dangerous trends, whether it's, physical harm or emotional harm. And we know that there can be comments left because those also don't get monitored on TikTok. So who has access to your content if you have a public profile? Is anybody on the internet? So that can be anybody, adults, other minors who can be leaving these comments underneath teens' videos. But we also know that a lot of times people are just posting on TikTok to gain followers and sort of like build up a fan base, even if it's just, reaching out to a bunch of their friends or, it's their school population.
Have you folks heard of school TikTok challenge? No. Who said yes? What do you know about it?
Are you talking about one specific challenge or in general?
Just in general.
Like there are these challenges where like they'll vandalize the school, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll like toilet paper the bathroom or steal things from the school, and it goes viral, and then they all want to post like ever more dramatic videos of how they're like achieving it in their own lives.
Yeah, so TikTok is like that because a lot of these trends can escalate really quickly in that way. People trying to one-up each other, the way that it is so easy to access and it's so quick to just sort of scroll through those videos definitely makes TikTok a more influential app, I would say right now, in terms of sort of guiding behaviors when it comes to social media usage. So yeah.
One of the things that I would encourage, you say you did not know? You did? I'm working with 2 students now where they had a TikTok challenge for school, and it was against the teachers. One threw a soap dispenser at a teacher, and another one hit a teacher.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So it was, and that went viral. So it's very important that we pay attention to that. Mm-hmm. That's huge that they're coming after the youth to give these challenges to, and these kids are taking them. Yeah.
Yeah, so Instagram. This is an older platform that maybe we're more familiar with, but it is popular because it's really easy to sort of curate that content, sort of build that lifestyle image. That's what a lot of people use Instagram for. And the way that teens are using it, primarily it's for likes. Again, sort of posting those photos to present an image of themselves that can sometimes be negative or, be sort of dictating their everyday behaviors in a way that might not be the healthiest. And we know that public photos are the default, so most people don't have private accounts on Instagram. Anybody can have access to that information. And you can also send private messages. That is also a feature of TikTok, by the way. You can send private messages to people. You can send people TikToks through the app. So it's easy to sort of transfer that information within the app itself. And we know that Instagram is a platform that lets users snap, edit, and share photos and 15 or 30-second videos. And most of the time, yes, it is public. And you can comment on those pictures. You can post filters. You can post stories now on Instagram. That's another very popular feature where you can sort of filter yourself. And that is another side effect that we've seen on social media, the use of filters and sort of how that is warping a lot of teens' perceptions of reality, sort of what is realistic in terms of attainable beauty standards, attainable lifestyle standards. So Instagram, that's another platform. Snapchat. So Snapchat is another highly used platform amongst teens. And again, that is 12 to 17. Primarily the younger age groups are using Snapchat, but it was intended to just send fleeting images. So the way Snapchat works, you send a picture and you give it a time limit. Usually it's only about 10 seconds. You can open that message in the image, and whatever you write over it, whatever you caption it, you can only see for 10 seconds before it deletes itself. So Snapchat can be dangerous in a way where, it's hard to trace messages that are being sent specifically between people. You can add people to be your contacts, and those are the people you message. Or you can post stories, which can go up for anywhere up to 24 hours, and then they delete themselves as well. So it's a myth that they go away forever, but Snapchat is one of those apps where it's harder to trace communications. It's harder to trace that harmful content that might be being spread within the app. And we know that, it can make sharing some risky behaviors seem okay, sort of like how TikTok, with that short form content, very fleeting feeling, can make people act certain ways on the app.
This particular app here has proven advantageous for our everyday malefactor. And he uses this when they're selling drugs to our youth. There is a park in Des Plaines, and I was there as to see what was going on. You can go on Snapchat, order, or your drugs, whatever it is, and these other individuals will bring it to you, but the image disappears. So law enforcement can't track it fast enough to catch who's doing it. But this is a prime way for them to contact those individuals who are selling these substances.
It's
and
also,
the kids really, 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 this is their deal. This is the modern day deal. Yes, ma'am.
yes.
It's right off of Lee Street in Des Plaines. It's Hiawatha. It's a Native American name. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And also, just one last note for Snapchat, talking about sort of the types of behaviors that can occur on the platform. It's also very popular for people sending explicit messages. And, because they don't track necessarily who is sending what, it is a lot easier for minors to be sending explicit messages to each other, to people who maybe they're not familiar with, who are just adding them on Snapchat. So that is also something to take note of when it comes to the Snapchat.
Sure.
I'm not familiar with Snapchat at all. But your example with the drug dealer, like how does he get his message out to everybody? Like how is that contact or connection made?
They know through the number. Your Snapchat is connected to your number. Yeah. So, but the actual message itself will delete after a few seconds. But it's connected to a number. But that number doesn't stay there. So if you Snapchat me, hey, Daryl, I need X, Y, and Z. When I receive that on your end, it's going to disappear after a few minutes. But I know where to meet you at because you've already told me.
So the student is the one who initiates the conversation.
Yes. Yes.
Usually.
Absolutely.
So,
And then there are some individuals who just have this number set up. If Ashley has this and you and I will get in contact with her, we have her number. Whatever we send her, though, is going to be untraceable after a few minutes, after a few seconds. It doesn't stay up.
yeah, so just like you have an account with like a username attached to it on any other platform, you have an account on Snapchat that's just a username that is, linked back to your phone number, but you're not sending messages through like your regular text messaging service. Like you're just letting people know sort of how you would let people know you have a Facebook account, that you have a Snapchat. Yes.
So I'm hearing that the messages disappear, but it also says that it's a myth that they go away. And I know you can screenshot them, but like,
Yes.
are there other ways of like getting that information, or is
So-
it sort of hit and miss?
It is very difficult with Snapchat because it is sort of, they host all of those messages, like they are stored somewhere, but in terms of privacy and sort of the agreements that you just sort of accept once you create that account, you're sort of signing away the ability to retain that information, because Snapchat doesn't want to be liable for any of that information that's being transferred on its platform. So they know that all of this is going down on their app, but they're trying to prevent you from being able to trace back the specific message, the specific time. They want to make that as difficult as possible.
It's
So,
a very detailed legal
yes.
navigation to get that information.
Got it. So
It's just
it goes away like for parents' purposes.
absolutely just for the
essentially,
layperson.
yes.
You can't get it.
Yes.
But I want to make sure I nail this home, because our youth are using Snapchat in a way that's not conducive for healthy living. I'm telling you, they use it for violence. They use it when something is going to be going on. They use it for nudity. They use it for hookups. They're using it for everything other than what it was initially meant for, just so you know. I've had parents tell me, because they will go back and go through, or they have confiscated their teen's phone, and the Snapchats come through, and they can't believe what they're receiving. So the deal here is to make sure that you're monitoring this. This is a big one. This and TikTok are big ones.
Twitter. So this is another widely used platform, less so amongst the teenage demographic, but also still very popular. So it's sharing, just sort of status updates, similarly to Facebook, about their lives, about their friends, keeping up sort of like with what's going on. There's a news tab on Twitter that's very popular, a lot of celebrity gossip, but we also know that it sort of lends itself to spreading misinformation about other people around you, making up rumors, those updates that you get. So you'll get a notification maybe that one of your followers or one of your friends has tweeted something. Those disappear. And we know that a lot of accounts that teens have on Twitter are public accounts. So again, like everything else, all of the words that you're putting on the internet are there for everybody to see. You can make those accounts private, but like with Snapchat, like with Instagram, there's always screenshotting that can be happening. And it's a big promotional tool for celebrities. So a lot of ads go out on Twitter. A lot of that content that could be influencing teens, younger adults, goes up on Twitter. And it's just a microblogging site. So they're very short form. So it's easy to sort of misinform people because you have such little space to sort of put out a thought on Twitter. But it is very popular, just sort of a lot of people I know use it to just sort of dump their emotions, that kind of thing. It's one of those platforms, I would say, for a lot of teens.
And also, so let me throw this out there. Your kid with social media, network providers for YouTube block all of these. You can scrub their phone with all of this. Twitter, they couldn't get on it. Snapchat couldn't get on it. TikTok can't get on it. Just know that.
So you just call?
You can take your phone in. They also have apps that do it as well.
Yeah, so we'll talk about some of those closer to the end too, but I'll plug Common Sense Media. They have sort of reviews for all of the different apps and platforms, and also just sort of like how you can set parental guidelines on the TV. You can do that with screen time, with app usage. You have to go into their phone settings to do it though, and sort of just control how much time or whether or not they're allowed to use that app at all. But you can do that through the phone settings, yes.
So I'm going to do the YouTube, which is why is it popular? Teens like use it and watch entertaining videos and short clips made there by their favorite YouTubers. You can subscribe to your favorite creators and be up to date with all these latest videos. What parents need to know is that YouTube is one of the most commonly used forms of media, which it is. It's big. Creators have creative freedoms when it comes to content in their videos, and videos have a comment section. Usually on YouTube, you don't see a lot of racy, bad deal. It's just stuff that's already up. You know what I mean? Basically, but you can do certain things because they monitor this. So you can't just do an obscene or an illegal type video and throw it up. They won't allow that. So this is probably one of the safer ones that they can be on.
For people to upload that type of harmful content that you might be seeing on those shorter form apps like TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, because it is, YouTube is heavily legally monitored. There are other organizations watching YouTube that are federal, that are curating that content. They have separate content for kids, specifically. There's like a YouTube Kids that you can, direct the younger people in your lives, people who have younger children, to that platform instead, where they can avoid potentially harmful content, comments, any of that stuff.
So let me ask a question. YouTube is, would you still consider it a social media?
It is still social media because you can still interact with those creators. Anybody can upload a video to YouTube. It's just,
Because you can make your own YouTube channel.
yes, yep, yeah,
So that's part of the social part.
Yep.
yeah,
But for some reason, YouTube is more regulated
it
than
is.
any of these other social media platforms.
YouTube has been around a
Why is
lot
that?
longer than most of the other social media platforms. And just in terms of how, I would say just in terms of how content is uploaded, how it is longer form videos, the ability for YouTube to be as influential as it, has been, as long as it has been, I would say government entities have realized that it can be very dangerous because, before it was heavily regulated, there were all types of videos that you could have access to. People talk about like dark web, like a lot of those violent videos that used to be on like the early internet would end up on YouTube. And so once the platform started gaining a lot of popularity, YouTube itself and also government entities started cracking down sort of on the guidelines, what was appropriate. So every video that gets uploaded to YouTube is reviewed at some point in time, sort of like through their sort of a virtual AI system that tries to filter out harmful content, tries to filter out content that might be, aggressive, abusive, or might lead to, sort of creating negative content in the comments, all of that stuff. Language is filtered out, all of those things.
YouTube is one that has integrity
Yeah,
attached to it.
and they take accountability more.
Yes.
They get
Yes.
accountability
Yes.
for putting out there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
For some and the government has gotten involved with watching what's
Yeah.
going on in this.
I think because
Regulating it.
how monetized YouTube has become, a lot of creators are on YouTube as a job now. It's sort of creating that content is their way to make income. So I think a lot of that has had to do with leading that sort of legal route.
So it's different than this other social media.
Big time.
Where they're not
Big time.
regulated and there's
Not as much.
accountability.
Not
Much,
as much.
much
I'll tell
less
you what, do
accountability,
yourselves
yes.
a favor. If you would go on TikTok yourself and Snapchat and just go through and look at some things and do some things, investigate on your own, you will see the difference. You will definitely see the difference. Yes,
Can I
ma'am.
say something about TikTok though? Is that TikTok's algorithm is very smart. So when you like videos, it gives you a lot more of that. So like if you scroll through my TikTok, it's pretty normal. But
Mm-hmm.
when I first went on TikTok, I would get like the first few videos that came up were like teenagers engaging in very inappropriate things, and then I was like not interested, and I trained it not to show me that. But
Yes.
if you get TikTok, then what you get shown is not going to be what your teenager is shown.
Yes.
Customize.
That is true.
Yeah.
Just what you said. If you like, just say if you're on and you want a worship TikTok, well, you like that. That is what the momentum is going to be for the TikToks you receive after
that.
that.
Down that rabbit hole.
Yes.
Yes.
Huh?
If you want to change that, just stop liking stuff.
If you want to change that, then you go back to the beginning and start all over again. Whatever comes up, you start liking. So it's always geared to what you want to do.
You can search
Yeah.
for things.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can go looking for the other kind of
Absolutely.
content.
Yeah.
But whatever you're getting is probably not going to be the same as for any other person.
If you want the filth, you'll get the filth.
Yeah. Any more questions before we move on to the next one? Yes. Twitch is one of those
What do you know
newer
about Twitch?
platforms.
I just know it's a streaming app that it's used for inappropriate streams.
It can be, yes.
That's all I know about it.
Most of it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Most of it is. It's not a kid-friendly.
Some of the content, so a lot of Twitch's content
That's why I said
is,
most.
Yes.
Most of it.
Yeah, a lot of Twitch's content is streamers who are gamers, people who are just playing video games. You can log on and watch people live stream. That is how Twitch is a little bit different from some of these other apps. It's sort of like YouTube in that it's longer form content, it's videos, there's a comment section, but most of the time it's happening live. You can go back and watch pre-recorded streams, but most of the time you're logging on because you have that streamer who's your favorite and they go on live at a certain time of day, a certain time of the week. and you watch along with other people who are part of that community, and you can leave live comments in the chat. You can donate money through the chat. So that is why Twitch has been very influential, because it's a big way to make money for a lot of different people. But it's also, there is some, potential for that inappropriate content. Sometimes there is adult content, adult streams. Twitch doesn't necessarily, they don't condone that. That wasn't what Twitch was intended for, but some creators use it to stream inappropriate content that is meant for adults that
I'll give you a
can still
case
be
in point.
found.
There's a young man who's a gamer, and he uses Twitch to make his money, but his draw-in is a young lady that's with him that's top nude. So that gets him more hits, which gives him more money. But, that's the attraction. That separates him from some of the other gamers, because you're going to want to watch his play because of what's right there, as opposed to these other guys who are just sitting there playing.
And because it's live, it is harder for Twitch to shut that content down as soon as it goes up. That is the thing. Twitch doesn't condone, nudity, any of the adult content that goes up there, and they don't allow any of that content to remain on the app. You can't save those videos and sort of go back to them a lot of the time. But yeah, you can't just block inappropriate streams as soon as they go up. If it's up and live and Twitch hasn't been notified, it'll stay up.
That's the catch there.
Yes.
Live.
I think, yes.
Discussion. What platforms do you see your children using the most, and what platforms are you most concerned about? So let's open it up.
My kids are on YouTube every day. It's YouTube.
TikTok.
They want Snapchat very badly, but they don't have it yet.
You're not allowing it?
I've been
Not allowing
debating.
How old are they?
They're 12 and almost 14 tomorrow.
Wow.
I know, I'm like a rarity. My kids
That's good,
pretty
though.
mad at me about it. But I'm pressured all the time. And so I know they have to, this is something that what the society is using. They use social media. Social media is everywhere. It's how people connect and communicate. So I just want to teach them how to use it responsibly, because I don't think I can, I don't know if I'll be able to keep them off it entirely,
But can I share something with you? You're doing the right thing. You are. And I'll tell you why I say that, because with the kids I work with, so many of them are using this for the wrong reasons, and the parents are not monitoring them. And then when something happens, they're wondering why. Well, if the law enforcement gets involved, they go through the phones. There it is right there. So don't ever feel that you're not conforming to what society may or may not be telling you. As a parent, you got to protect your children.
I mean, I get pressure even from adults saying that I'm hurting their social lives.
Wow. At 12 and 14.
Yeah, because they, not only my kids, but like, people, adults saying that.
I just want to say, I have little younger kids, and I gave them a phone in order for me to more like track the bus when they go to school. But then from friends in the bus, they learn about TikTok and other stuff. So, but then if I take it away, I'm afraid that then their friend's gonna be like, well, because you're like this because you don't have a phone now, or you know what I mean?
A popularity type deal? Well, I would say this. You put certain barriers in place when certain behaviors represent themselves. If your kids are handling it responsibly, leave it alone. If you come up on something where it's like, I'm not too comfortable with that, then you got to take another step. And it may not be just canceling it out altogether.
I mean, sometimes I just take it and block it. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly.
And then you'll give it back to them after a while, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but here's the piece to that. You're a parent that's staying on top of it. That's the key, folks.
Yeah.
As a parent,
It's like a full-time job.
yes, it's okay to let them have it, but you got to be proactive with this thing.
Another question I have, because I didn't didn't know when I first got the phone.
Mhm.
I didn't know how to set up for a child, so I just set it up as my own
Mhm.
account. So
Mhm.
now, if they wanted to go and search for certain that stuff, they probably would be able to because it comes under me.
Do you have iPhones or
Android.
Androids?
So
Okay.
because I think the Android you have to have like a Google account in order to like take the apps down, right?
I don't have an Android.
So I think so.
You have to make
Yeah.
a Google account
I
to
think
get on
I have to
Android.
make
Yes.
it like a Google account with how old they are, and then
Yes.
I'm assuming it's gonna stop. Like they're not gonna be able to download. For example, like I don't know. Let's say Facebook is you have to be 18 years old or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It will open up a plethora of restrictions
Okay.
that you could adhere to. Now that I do know.
Okay.
And then you'll be able to pick and choose exactly how you want to design that particular phone.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Go ahead. You were going to say?
I think you have to set it up, like you have to have a Gmail account, and then you'll have to like erase the phone if it has your Gmail account on it. You have to erase the phone and set it up with a new Gmail for them,
Mm-hmm.
and then you probably want to have the password for you, but
Yes.
not for them to have
Okay.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can get into it or not into it.
Okay.
There are
Yep.
also apps that you as a parent can manage to block certain things from your kids' phone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want them to have social media, you can block
Mhm.
TikTok,
That's
Facebook,
right.
Snapchat, all of it.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
So they only have access to maybe messaging or calling or games,
Yep.
things that you approve. So
Mhm.
there are apps that actually will send you a notification like, Jen is trying to download Snapchat.
Okay.
Do you
Mhm.
want her to do this? And then you ultimately get to
Do you
decide.
know one of those?
I
Mm-hmm.
think we're gonna talk about it in
Yes.
a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Doesn't definitely.
So what platforms, anyone else, that are you most concerned about? Come on, Dad.
Maybe some.
I'd probably say TikTok.
TikTok?
TikTok.
Why?
TikTok is like the worst.
Yeah, TikTok can get
Uh-huh.
pretty bad.
How old are your kids with that?
10, 7, and 8.
She's a TikTok.
No, she goes to YouTube, but she's not able to sign in or anything. It's just a regular YouTube.
Okay, you got it blocked?
Yeah.
Mhm.
There you go.
I feel like TikTok and Snapchat are sort of the top two. My kids aren't on them. Like I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. My 9-year-old can be on Facebook Messenger Kids. So you can only text friends that I approve. And then, I'll let them look at my TikTok, like certain TikTok videos. What that's about. But he likes the idea of having a lot of more access to it than
How old is he?
And he's 9. They figured out
Wow.
that they can do Google Hangouts with each other through their school Chromebooks. So now they set up after school Hangouts where they do like chatting. But I told him you can only do it with kids in his class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You were saying, Ashley?
I think from the school perspective, all forms of social media have carried over into school in lots of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think Snapchat is the hardest to figure out. So when there are messages that are sent, because I could say my name is Ashley on TikTok, but I can also say it's brown-eyed girl, and nobody would know who that was, right?
Mhm.
So it's really tricky to find things on Snapchat, especially once there's been a screenshot, and then that has been passed along from student to student to student. It makes it really hard to figure out who sent it, who was involved, who are all of these other people, because it's not listed by a name, and there's not an actual picture there either.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Which encourages more inappropriate.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is, I guess my vote would be Snapchat is the hardest. On Facebook, it will show Elena DeVito sent Ashley a message, right? And so if there was an issue, I could go directly talk to Elena. Snapchat makes it a little bit trickier because of all of those pieces.
Yes.
And the message goes away. So Elena could come to school and say,
Yep.
Principal, Ashley sent me this really awful message. She said she wants to fight me after school. Well, do you have that message? No, it disappeared in 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just makes things really
tricky to
Certainly
track
does.
down and to figure it out.
Absolutely.
But there is a lot, I have 2 junior high admin here. There's a lot of social media stuff that happens online and then rolls over into school.
And to your point, Ashley, which is a great point, that's why law enforcement has such a hard time tracking down these individuals who are selling the substances to our kids because it disappears. You know what I mean? So they can't do anything about it because they can't trace it.
And it's difficult, again, on the legal side with Snapchat to trace accounts to phone numbers. So again, yeah, tying that legally to anybody's identity is also difficult because it's harder to obtain that private information of other people's accounts. So somebody could be sending harmful messages to your kid, but you might not necessarily know who that is because they're using a username that doesn't identify them, and then you can't get their phone number because, you know, they have privacy protections through Snapchat.
And to Ashley's point, and the 2 APs there, I want to make sure I nail this home, what she was saying. What happens here in school with those Snapchats is unreal. These kids will post stuff and threats, fights that are going to be happening, different things that are going on, and it's on Snapchat and then it's gone. But everybody else in that trail, they know exactly what's what, where to go, who to go to, or whatever. So what Ashley brought up is a very, very important point that we have to look at. It is really becoming detrimental within the school system. Yes.
The other piece that I want to add, there is a new feature on Snapchat that you can set it up so the messages stay longer. And so it may be like if you do allow your child to use Snapchat, that may be helpful. Just the actual messaging, not the photos, right? The actual messaging between people can stay longer. And so I just encourage when I'm talking to kids or parents about that, if that's something that you're going to allow your child to do, it may be beneficial to set it up where the actual messaging between whomever they're talking to is there. Otherwise, those
Chats, that direct messaging side, those will disappear in 24 hours too.
So the best thing is not to allow.
Yes.
Yeah.
If that is your preference, yes, yeah.
But to Mom's point here, you know, come on, let's be real. You know, it's not a horrible thing to have your child have access to social media. The important piece is we have to be intentional with monitoring. That's the key. If you're not watching what's going on, you're gonna fall short, I'm telling you. And too many parents I come in contact with, oh my God, I didn't know. Oh, you know, they're scrambling because they weren't watching. You see some signs, but then you don't investigate and you let it go. And then guess who it falls on? Especially if they're school children. The administrators at school, the educators. Or we come in and we assist them to pick up some of the pieces. Yes, Ashley.
The only other piece that I want to make sure is all of the social media apps have certain age limits that they recommend when they start using it, but kids are able to create accounts at much younger. So for example, when I was in college, that was when Facebook started. You used to have a college-issued email address in order to even sign up for Facebook. So unless you had a college-issued email address, you didn't even have access to it. And then as they kind of continued to grow, things changed. I think for Facebook right now, the age is 13 or 14, but there are kids in elementary schools that are accessing Facebook. And that's just one example.
But you don't call it Facebook now, right?
I don't know.
Senior book.
Oh.
Yeah, because because Snapchat and TikTok is taking over, Twitter. You know, so Facebook is almost like a relic. Yeah.
The only one we all know how to use.
All right, yeah.
Sounds like it just makes the teenage years so much harder than they already.
But it is.
Historically.
It's sad, but it is.
I can't even imagine growing up with them.
Yes.
This is a new culture we're dealing with. We might as well understand that. It really, really is. It's different than any other.
Yeah.
You know, and one of the ways I'm going to continue to say this as parents that we just have to be intentional in our efforts. consistent in our consistency to be ahead of the game. I'm telling you, otherwise you lose. Because it's not just what you're doing with your kid in the house, Dad. What happens outside, like the mom was saying on the school bus, it happens all the time. So if you educating in the home, you're giving yourself a better chance.
All right.
So what are the benefits here? Did you folks see the benefits? Let's talk about the benefits.
There are benefits. Yes, yes.
I'm sure our kids could tell you.
Yeah, exactly. So, like Daryl mentioned before, keeping your kids off the internet, if that is something that you are inclined to do, absolutely. But it's not necessarily all bad. There are still studies that show, and teens who report that social media usage is a good thing in a lot of ways in terms of just, being able to express yourself creatively, being able to reach out to people who you might not have access to, who can be a good support system, people who you might not be able to, see every day at school. You can reach out to them. It's a good way to just make sure that you're keeping up with your relationships, kind of keep up with what's going on. But yeah, we'll get into some of the specifics, those benefits, and then we'll talk about, again, the risks a little more specifically. So yeah, what are some of the benefits? What are they? So easy access to information. So we know that's a double-edged sword, but that easy access to information can allow you to educate yourselves, be exposed to topics that maybe, you don't just talk about every day in school, that can help you grow, sort of expand your horizons a little bit, maintaining and developing those supportive relationships, finding friends, not necessarily strangers on the internet, but, keeping in touch with friends who maybe you don't have contact with on the day-to-day as much as you used to, forming their identities. So it can be a good way, a lot of these apps are used as just creative outlets, posting your art, posting whatever sort of, extracurriculars you're into, sort of developing your skills, finding other people in those communities, artists, musicians, that kind of thing. And, just learning, talking to your peers, expressing yourself generally, maybe more openly than you would just, in person with your friends. And then promoting a sense of belonging and self-esteem. You're staying connected with your friends, and you're in, more diverse communities, as I said. So those are just some of the benefits. But then some of the risks. We've talked about the conduct that can occur on some of these social media apps and who you have contact with and how much contact you have with those people. A lot of those things that is harder to monitor, those can lead to some, potential negative side effects with that internet usage. Content risks. So for teenagers, these risks include coming across material that they might find upsetting, disturbing, disgusting, uncomfortable. And, like we talked about with TikTok and how the algorithm works, sometimes it's curated, sometimes you just get random content. That can be pornography, real or simulated violence. We know a lot of the things that are happening right now in terms of, the conflict with Russia and Ukraine. A lot of that is being documented on TikTok. And so they're seeing that violence firsthand on the internet, on TikTok, live. Hate sites, terrorist sites, harmful user-generated content. So even popular creators can be, going along with challenges that are harmful, detrimental, and, sites about drug use, self-harm, suicide, or negative body image. All of these types of things that can turn into trends can easily turn into negative trends that sort of demean different people of different backgrounds, different people with different body types. It can be a very negative space in terms of self-image, how you express yourself for a lot of different teens. And because it's harder to sort of monitor that content or curate that content on most sites, that is one of the major risks. So running into something that just disturbs you personally is a high risk, and especially on those short form content platforms like TikTok, those live stream platforms like Twitch. Conduct risks. So we talked about how those behaviors that happen online on social media can trickle into schools. We know cyberbullying, sexting, misusing people's passwords, or impersonating other people online is a lot easier to do when you have these usernames that aren't tied to specific identities or identifiable faces, making unauthorized purchases. So we talked about Twitch. Through the chat function on Twitch, you can just donate money. As long as you have a card or card information input into it, you can just keep sending money to those creators who you support, regardless of whether or not you get your parents' permission necessarily, you can send money to those creators. And then also, like with ads and things, it's very easy to sort of click off and away from those apps and find products that might be not age appropriate, all those types of things. And also, they're uploading that financial information to some of these less regulated social media sites. So it's easier for that financial information to be spread to other unregulated sources. And that also includes creating content that reveals information about themselves or other people, so privacy risks, and then also having trouble regulating that time online. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but that sort of long-term social media screen time usage can develop into problem internet use, which is basically just like, it can manifest in a lot of different ways, but in terms of like the physical and mental side effects, we know that long-term exposure to the internet and social media can have negative side effects. So, yep.
Every time I see the title cyberbullying, it hits me because I've had, in the work that I do, I've had 2 experiences with families whose kids were affected by cyberbullying. One of the girls committed suicide, and another one made an attempt on suicide. That's huge. Cyberbullying is a huge deal. So that is why it's so important. I mean, when you get a bunch of folk, a bunch of other peers of yours to gang up on you on a particular site and demean you with these names and these derogatory comments and slurs, and that has an effect on someone who's really not that stable to begin with. That's a big deal. It really, really is.
The internet and social media have changed the way children experience bullying. Now, bullying can happen beyond the school gates. Anywhere and anytime, in the form of cyberbullying on social, gaming, and instant messaging platforms. With the help of the Anti-Bullying Alliance and industry experts, we've created a hub of advice for parents to support children on how to deal with the issue. Here are 5 things you need to know about cyberbullying. 1. Cyberbullying can take place 24/7 and happens repeatedly on a range of apps, games, and devices. 2. As it's digital, it can reach more people than traditional forms of bullying and increase the chance that others will join in the bullying. 3. Unlike face-to-face bullying, children can't see the impact of their words, so even children who've never been involved in bullying can post or share something without thinking. 4. Although it's easy to keep the evidence, it can be anonymous, so it's harder to know who's behind it. 5. According to recent stats, it's growing and can consist of a range of actions from harassments and threats to exclusion, defamation, and manipulation. So, it's important to take it seriously and give children the tools to deal with it.
Yes, that is one online resource, internetmatters.org. And also stopbullying.gov is another website that has a lot of resources, especially to, sort of prevent or try to inform your kids, your teens about cyberbullying, how you can prevent it with your teens, sort of making sure that they're just paying attention to the content that they're seeing, because a lot of the times we'll talk about passive usage, but just sort of like they can see it in the peripheral, in the background, not really understand what's happening, not notice that it's harmful sometimes. And like the video said, just be reposting something that they don't realize is derogatory, is harming somebody else. It's easy to sort of fall into the cycle of just reposting, recycling content without realizing what necessarily it is you're doing. So, yeah, contact risks. That's another thing.
Just like adults, children may be at risk of having their online identities stolen or misused. It can be difficult to maintain a child's privacy, as they may not understand what information is safe to share online. Children can unwittingly reveal too many personal details, leaving them open to identity theft. A child's stolen identity may not be noticed for years and could result in blackmail, grooming, or bullying. Unexplained bills, emails from unrecognised organisations, as well as letters regarding government benefits or tax payments may indicate a stolen identity. It's great for your child to build relationships and share interests online, but it's important to talk to them about what could happen if they are too much. Talk about privacy and information you shouldn't share online. This includes their real name, address, phone number, school, and town in which they live. Encourage your child to think about which friends they share with. Are they likely to share this with others? A conversation with close friends is often open to all friends, or even everyone on the internet. If your child comes across a stranger, whether online or offline, they should avoid them and not reveal anything personal. Encourage them to stay anonymous where possible and use a username that is not their real name. Go through the privacy settings with your child for every social networking site and app they use. Agree with them what they'll share and with whom. Check the privacy settings on the devices they use. Look out for location services, sharing of contacts, photos, calendars, Bluetooth sharing, microphone, video, and advertising settings. Search your child's full name in several search engines and see what information and photos are public. If you find any inaccurate comments or photographs that might damage your child's reputation, ask the website to remove them. Block pop-ups to help your child avoid downloading a virus that may harvest personal information. Make regular visits to online safety sites like CyberStreet, ThinkYouKnow, ChildNet, or ParentInfo to keep up to date with possible issues. If your child's identity has been stolen, tell any affected websites about the problem. Your child should log in and change their password immediately. If they can't log in, contact the technical support department. Change any secret questions or other verification information sites use to identify users. Check with credit reference agencies for any unusual entries and for advice.
And with contact risks also, they talk about reporting when it comes to identity theft potentially. But when it comes to just harmful content or comments on a lot of the platforms like Instagram, Facebook, I know on YouTube you can report through the app. Usually there's like a little drop-down menu. You can report a video, a comment for harmful, abusive content. You can report comments, that might be defamatory a lot of the time. It will take some time because the people from the app have to go in and review it, but that is a way, that is an avenue that you have to get that content removed from the app eventually. But it'll take time. Know that it won't be immediate, so that content won't just go away. And then also when it comes to screenshots and sharing, amongst other platforms, that doesn't necessarily mean it'll go away, but it is one step you can take to sort of get it off of those social media platforms to prevent more people from seeing it.
And I think the biggest thing that stood out to me here was the litany of directions that she gave for putting those safety precautions in place. Did you see that? All the things that you as parents have the capability to do. Kids can have the phone, but just go through that phone with them and set up these speed bumps to make sure that certain things are in place and you're keeping them safe. You gotta be involved.
So, did you know technical internet safety tools like internet filters can increase the risk for some children if they're over a certain age? So when we're talking about older teens, if they're not learning how to navigate the internet themselves, if they're not learning those skills, learning what content they should be avoiding on their own, that can in some ways be a detriment because, once they become adults, they might not necessarily understand decision making. They might be taking risks that they shouldn't be taking, whether it's on accident or on purpose, and they might be using the internet in sort of unfiltered environments, landing themselves in places that make them uncomfortable, landing in places where it might be abusive or, derogatory content, all of these types of things. So making sure you have filters established, like, we talked about the settings that you can set up in your own phone, like just through like your own account, making sure that you have like time limit usages and stuff like that. But you can also filter out certain content within the apps as well. You can block certain hashtags. You can block certain creators through different apps by going to their profiles and blocking that content from within your own profile. Those are all options that you have. But then again, some of that research shows that like once you reach a certain age, and they say 14, but whatever age you're comfortable with your child sort of having more free range on the internet, whatever age that is, sort of letting them figure out on their own how to navigate might be beneficial for them in the long run in terms of learning how to navigate the internet in a way that is productive and healthy. So, you want to take this one?
Yeah, privacy, personal information, personal safety. Explain why it is important to look at and choose appropriate privacy, location, and safety settings on every device. Remind your child not to give out their name, address, date of birth, or other identifying information to people they don't know in person. Update stranger danger advice with your child as they move toward adulthood and come into contact with online dating, which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say at a school, one of the schools I work at, we got some of the young men there, 11, 12 years old. They're on porn sites all the time. 11 and 12. So I'm telling you, educate. If you're not talking to your kid and being intentional with being involved,
Mm-hmm.
it's right here for them. If you don't teach them, somebody's going to teach them wrong. That's the bottom line. Other risk, trolling. This is when people deliberately try to start arguments or upset people on the internet, often causing considerable distress. Isolation. Too much time spent online and using technology is time not spent face-to-face with family and friends, which can create barriers and contribute to a sense of isolation. Inappropriate material. Teenagers posting inappropriate pictures or content online or sharing such material with friends may humiliate themselves or others. Inappropriate relationships. Strangers or others may try to form inappropriate relationships with young people. That's huge as well. Discussion. What impact do you think the social media has on mental health? Wow.
Tons of anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
just that immediate.
Gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it causes social anxiety because they're with their friends, but they're not really with their friends.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from our educators back there.
I think that social media has become so important to our kids, even more so important than actual physical peer relationships or communication, face-to-face communication. It has become so important that kids will come to school and not be able to focus because of something that happened on social media the night before, that morning, during the day. And it has really impacted their school life for sure, but I'm sure that stuff carries over into home too.
And kids are on their phone all day in class. That's all we get our teachers emailing us. They won't get off their phone. Can you come take their phone? So they are on their phone. It's not just to communicate with parents like you guys are hoping, like staying after school. They're always on their phone. Out in the hallway, they're walking past, they're on their phone. It's such a big problem.
Even phone-free zones.
Ways, there's, unless you take that phone away, they're probably going to be on it one way or another. They're going to hide it. You tell them to put it away, they'll probably still have it out. And they're not exactly like reporting back home. They're usually on TikTok, Snapchat, communicating, but not really communicating. So.
What's on TikTok?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They'll have their laptops up.
They're missing out.
They have their laptops up and then they have their phone like on the screen so it looks like they're working, but their phone's right there. They all have their earbuds in and they're listening to music or whatever, not paying attention. It's a big problem.
I do think it's hard for the kids that don't have it
when everybody's on it, they're kind of like.
That's my thing. Then they're being kind of left out, or then others may actually make fun of the ones that don't have it, or not. They're not as much involved with it. So it's like that's bad and that's bad.
There are also kids who don't want to come to school because of things that have been posted on social media, things that they have seen on social media. And so it becomes a much bigger snowball effect where it just kind of rolls over from day to day.
You have a huge population of kids who use those phones as a weapon and not what they're meant to be used for. You have to understand that. You do. Some of these kids are not using that for what it's meant for. Of course, they're texting mom, they're texting dad, they're doing certain things, but they also use it as a weapon. And it causes a lot of havoc, especially on school grounds.
Mm-hmm. It's already such a hard time to navigate friends, relationships, just going through the awkward phases of life. Doing that on social media is not necessarily always the most beneficial for mental health. You can have those positive communities, have good relationships with other people on the internet, but with extreme usage, being on social media constantly, having it constantly in the background, having it as something that you're constantly considering in your in-person interactions can make it very harmful, very hard to form interpersonal relationships in a lot of ways because you're focusing more on how you present yourself as opposed to how you want to be acting, how you feel like you should be acting, all those types of things. So,
and then paired with the pandemic.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Big time.
That has kind of made things even much bigger because kids were isolated. We were isolated. Some of us still had to work, and kids may have been home with older siblings or a sitter. It has just made it so much bigger because now it's almost as kids would prefer to communicate that way, even if they're sitting right next to each other.
And it gives them a false sense of security because they have more of a backbone to speak on social media and they say more things they may never say to a person's face.
True. Very true.
Yeah, just the way that there's a lot less accountability online. That translates to all sorts of different things in terms of the way you talk to people, the way you act with people that might, not necessarily happen in real life face to face. So, something to think about.
They're not mature enough to handle the technology that's given to them. We're in a situation where with the technology that they're really developmentally as teenagers, and the companies know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they make their money. They know this.
Well, but the reality is many teenagers shouldn't even be able to have access, but they create email addresses that say they're older than they are, but then grants them access.
Mm-hmm.
They're so tech savvy.
Yes.
So much more than.
Yeah.
One of the things I look at, and I'm going to always go back to this, these kids, I'll say, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, who's paying the phone bill? Yeah, so why are they allowed to dictate their phone? This is one of the things that I'm really, really big on, and I'm trying to push with parents when I speak to them, especially in one-on-one settings. We've kind of relinquished, not me, you relinquish your power to your kid when you just allow them to be. And I'm not saying that you have to have this stringent interaction with them and be this militant type individual, but you got to hold them accountable. And you got to watch what's going on with the world that we're living in today. Because when we were coming up, we had face-to-face talks, right? We had face-to-face discipline, right? We had structure that we must abide by. So why have we kind of tapped out with our children? And then guess what happens? They're with the educators for a window of time, and they get all the shrapnel because of what's not happening at home. So how can we back them up, do what we need to do if they're being allowed to do whatever they want to do at home. That phone is a bad piece, I'm telling you. It's a good tool. It's a good tool. Huh? Absolutely. But that's a bad, ooh, that phone has power.
Yeah.
You have to be very responsible.
You most certainly do. So if you got a 10-year-old, and here I am, the parent that brought this 10-year-old here, why am I not holding that 10-year-old accountable? It's about education. And I'm not saying that you don't do that. I'm saying that our hope was when you leave here, that you're looking at this in a different way. And that maybe you're putting some other things into play to take care of you and your situation. Yeah. Impact on social media and on mental health. The heavy use of social media is associated with poorer mental health. A recent University of Pittsburgh study of young adults suggested that heavy social media users were 3 times more likely to be depressed than occasional users. A Canadian study from the Center of Addictions and Mental Health that examines data from over 10,000 adolescents found that young people who use social media more than 2 hours per day were significantly more likely to rate their mental health as fair or poor compared to the occasional user.
Yeah,
Wow.
We know that a lot of that impact it's impacting your sleep, so it's impacting just your daily schedule. It's interrupting those daily cycles, the stuff that you would normally be doing on the day-to-day, self-care, waking up, establishing a routine. If you're interrupting all of that with social media usage or just sort of dividing your attention constantly between sort of your reality and what's happening on your phone, a lot of the times it can lead to a disconnect that it makes it harder to sleep, that, we talk about the blue light effect making it harder to sleep. It's interrupting your sleep cycle. You're getting up, you're scrolling through your phone instead of trying to go back to sleep in the middle of the night. A lot of that and how it affects that rhythm just on the day-to-day is what is impacting mental health, besides just the content that they're coming into contact with that might be harmful, that might be hurting their feelings.
Quick question.
Sure.
So our family is kind of similar to Chris's in the fact that my kids don't have any social media either, other than YouTube. But they do, especially since the pandemic, have been more involved in doing games, like Roblox or whatever. Is there any studies about mental health in relation to that? You're not necessarily on social media, communicating with others, but you are gaming quite a bit. And is that, isolating, and does it have similar effects as being on social media?
They still consider gaming social media.
Okay.
In some cases, yes, where you have like chat functions and like where you're gaming live with other people, that can still be the case sort of in a lot of ways, like how Twitch, how that community functions, where you can interact with people live. That is true. We won't get into gaming specifically in this presentation, but it is true a lot of similar side effects you'll see that with like gaming and like, that long-term sort of TV time. It'll have the same types of effects in terms of, sleep circadian rhythm and that long-term eventual effect on mental health and potentially physical health.
I think it still affects them because no matter what,
It most certainly does.
their mind is stimulated constantly.
Yep. You can't separate that. You are focused on this one thing. I know a guy who's the guy I was telling you about with the lady and everything. He's on this game 24/7. He forgets what day it is. You know what I mean? Seriously. He forgets what day it is because he's so locked in. Huh? Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. So it does
to some
affect
extent,
you.
yeah.
It really, really does. It takes you off kilter because you just focus. You're in this silo with this particular deal here. So yes, you're right. It does.
Yeah, so one of the biggest recommendations is just cutting that screen time, making sure you're giving yourself time limits, whether it's social media, whether it's gaming, that time in front of a screen, setting stricter limits with yourself and with your teens and your kids, making sure you're not, sort of disrespecting that boundary with yourself and your physical and mental health, making sure you have those conversations about what is healthy and unhealthy usage, and knowing these side effects. These are things that you can bring to the table when, maybe they tell you like, oh, well, everybody else does it, trying to sort of guilt you potentially because other people do it all the time and they're fine. We know in a lot of ways, in a lot of cases, this can be a major detriment to kids. So yes, with the mental health impact, we're talking about the impact on sleep, using it as a comparison tool. So you see all of these curated lifestyles on Facebook, on Instagram. The things that you post do not reflect real life most times. And then chasing likes. So posting things that you think will perform well versus posting things that maybe you're just interested in, posting things that are relevant to you, just to drive some sense of self-worth or self-esteem. If that's not rooted in something that is genuine to you, that can have a major impact on your mental health and your self-image.
Ashley and Joe, we have about 5 minutes left, so I just want to give you a
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
so we can be respectful of everyone's time.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, yeah, we can talk about this. We talked a lot about this through the presentation, but yes, make sure you're talking about the impact that this usage of social media and this time online is having with them. You guys know now sort of what those side effects look like. So having honest conversations with your teens, with your kids is a major, it's a major point in terms of improving those side effects, making sure that they're not, harming themselves mentally, they're not interacting with communities they shouldn't be interacting with. It has the potential to impact physically, mentally, their sleep, their self-image, and encouraging that face-to-face time and those interpersonal interactions and connections, that is major.
Online identity is the way we choose to portray ourselves online. Now, it should be a simple thing. However, the way we are offline isn't always the way we are online. Online identity allows us to showcase edited versions of our lives, highlighting features that we feel others value. So, when posting about an amazing holiday, for example, our post reflects not only what's important to us, but also what we believe others expect from us. Now, having an online identity can be liberating as it encourages self-expression and allows us to connect with other people. However, it can create a lot of pressure. Kids can hide aspects of who they are or try to live up to certain expectations in order to feel more accepted. And this can be detrimental to their own sense of self-worth and can impact things like body image and self-esteem. Parents should allow their children to express themselves online. However, it's important we offer support to help them navigate this. There are a few ways you can do this. Firstly, start a positive conversation around online identity. Have regular check-ins and discuss what your child's online identity means to them and how they feel it reflects who they really are. Secondly, it's important to speak about how and who they share their lives with online, making sure to touch on what they should and shouldn't share by discussing issues around safety and privacy. Thirdly, help them think critically about how online and offline influences can impact how they see themselves and the world around them. Get them to think about the intentions behind what people are sharing online. Your child's online identity is a self-expression of who they are, and often it evolves and changes over time. With your support, they can do this in ways that will benefit their well-being as they grow and as they develop.
Remember, teens need to know that once content is shared with others, they will not be able to delete it or remove it completely, including texting of inappropriate pictures.
So yeah, these are just some resources. If any of you would like to see this written down somewhere, we know this is being recorded, but we also have resources you can come up and ask us about afterwards. These are just some of them that you can get guides, advices for different age groups, whether you have younger or older kids. We have experts, people who have done the research that we talked about today, extra articles if you're interested in reading that, and then also some parent testimonials, what they've done. That's been helpful in terms of talking to their teens, their kids about internet usage.
A final word. Remember, the goal of teaching digital citizenship is to empower kids with the skills and the knowledge they need to navigate the world today. They not only need to understand that they have a responsibility to conduct themselves appropriately online, but they also need to understand how they can use technology to benefit them and those around them. Technology is not just a tool for posting pictures and viewing videos, but can be used to create a presence that helps them get into college or find a job.
Those are some
Several sources here. Do we have this anyplace, Ashley?
So it is going to be recorded online, but if you would like a copy of the slide deck, I'd be happy to share it out with you if you just put a star by your name. I don't want to overwhelm people with a bunch of things that they don't want, but I'd be happy to share it.
Sounds very good.
So, yep, this is our contact information. Again, if anybody is interested in the work that the Kenneth Young Center does, feel free to come up and ask us any questions. You can find our social medias linked here. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can email us at cpyd.coalition@gmail. And again, we're the Kenneth Young Center, and we are the Community Collaborations Department. My name is Ashley, and this is Daryl.
Manager of Recovery Support Services.
Yes.
Boom, 7:30, there it is.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you folks for showing up and being a part of the solution. Really, that's good stuff. Please spread the word.
So we will be partnering with Kenneth Young for 2 other sessions this year. I know that seems really quick turnaround. The next one will be on March 31st, which will be on social emotional needs of children and kind of how to respond to those needs. And then the next one will be, I believe, April 28th, and that will be on anxiety and school refusal attendance. We haven't nailed it down yet, but something along that run. Yeah, if you have any questions, we'll hang around. You want to take some food on your way out, but thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.